Hello and welcome to the Intentional Soul, the home for the highly functioning spiritual types out in the world. It is here that we look at the world and ourselves through the lens of higher consciousness, connecting deeply to who and what we really are. Now, my name is Tom Ross, spiritual teacher, healer, spiritual nonconformist, and I am your host for these conversations. On the Intentional Soul, we hear not only from me, but from people who are living intentionally, openly, and authentically in their world. We'll hear their stories of personal transformation while sharing best practices and tactics to help you get the most out of this game called life. Now, nothing is off limits as we seek to expand ourselves and our awareness and live, ultimately, our most authentic lives. Let's dive in. All right, welcome. Today with us, we have Sandra Ammerlaan, who is the founder at laughatshit.com. Now, Sandra guides women to make shit from their past the fertilizer of their future, and it's her mission to inspire women to become who they choose to be and actually live a fulfilling life that they truly want so they can really become the happiest versions of themselves. So welcome, Sandra. I'm so thrilled to have you here on the Intentional Soul. Would you mind talking a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be on. My background is actually going through a lot of adversity throughout my life, going through a relationship with mental abuse and a narcissist, being bullied at school, always felt like I wasn't really in place. And then I ended up getting a really severe depression, and I only knew something had to change. Well, either you get a rope, but hey, no rope is going to hold me. I'm way too heavy for that. So no rope. So I knew I needed to change myself, because that is the only way how you can live a fulfilling life, because you cannot change what is happening to you, but you can change the way you respond or how you see things. And by doing that, that changed the whole ball game.
That's amazing. So was there a particular point that you had, like that was an inflection point, or you got low enough where you said, enough's enough, I have to start working on myself and relating to life differently? Or what was the process to come out the other side where you are right now?
Yeah, well, they say that people either move to either avoid pain or gain pleasure. Most people are not even aware, but they do things to avoid pain. And when I finally realized I was just avoiding pain, when something hurts bad enough, you have no other option than to do something about it, because you don't want to live the way you are living. You want to become happier. It's only you that can change that. And you are the only one responsible for your own happiness. No other person in the world can make you happy, even if they want to. They cannot do it for you. They can only hold your hand while you do it.
Amazing. So you talk about learning to believe in yourself. And I'm assuming this is part of the process that you went through to be out the other side of how you were feeling, coming out of the relationship or what have you. How did you accomplish developing and learning that self-belief, or how do you take people through that process of believing in themselves?
Well, I think it's probably a lifelong process that you go through, because every new level has a new devil. So it will come back and on a new level. But I think when I've been suicidal for months, I actually already written my farewell letter. I didn't even remember that till very recently. Someone else shared a story, and then I remember how far I was on. And then I started, the universe is always giving you signs. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe the universe, life is working for you, not against you. And I came across a year program, which I took, and they had a lot of exercises that I did. And I took the program for 2 years. After that, I think one of the best things I ever did was take an NLP course, because NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And that's how I learned how to reframe my thoughts, my feelings. I understood more about it. I learned more about it. And there are so many tips and so many ways to work on yourself and start believing in yourself again. Because most of the things that we think or we believe or we feel, they are not even true. We tell ourselves you bullshit the whole bloody day.
Yeah, I once took a class that was a week long, and it was an extraordinary class, an incredible growth class. And at one point during the class, they sold, and I'm not joking, gold plated bullshit, plated plaques of bullshit. And what they said was, it's all bullshit, out there. Whatever you believe is bullshit, you may as well buy our bullshit because it's actually empowering. So,
I love that one. Oh, I really, really love that one. And I probably would have bought it too.
Bought it, had the entire class sign it. It was fabulous. So neurolinguistic programming was and you mentioned something with respect to reframing, and I want to kind of go backwards here. The context of life is happening for you and not to you is an incredibly powerful and transformational idea. How do you go about implementing that at an early stage? So I'm gonna give you a little bit more context to answer this question. In the beginning, it can feel like bullshit and fraud. Like that life is happening for me and not to me. That's like when people say, like, I get to go do this thing that I hate. You know what I mean? It's like you can, like as if you can just stamp an I get to with language, and that's the whole thing. And it's not the whole thing. So talk to me about, how do you start relating to life in a way where it's actually happening for you instead of just saying it but not really believing it?
Well, the first time I heard that, I was really pissed off. I was so angry when people said that to me. I thought, what are you talking about? I mean, now I can say the end of my relationship with the narcissistic guy was, I say now, I was saved by a miracle in disguise. The fact is, I had a miscarriage. So a lot of people would not say the same thing. They say, that's really stupid. Why do you believe that the miscarriage was a bad thing or was a good thing? But the way I see it now is, if I didn't get the miscarriage, either way, the relationship wouldn't have held on for the rest of my life. So either way, I would have been stuck with my ex-partner for the rest of my life. And he would probably make my life miserable with, I don't know, arguing or whatever, because that's all he did. So once I got to realize that maybe some of the bad things that are happening are not bad things, because some of life's greatest gifts are actually wrapped in sandpaper. You just need to unwrap them. And sure, it sounds like I talk and I say this very, very easily, and I know it's not easy, but you have to trust the process. And I was sitting at my table for one time, and I was really upset and really sad about everything that was happening. And what we often then do is ask ourselves, why me? And then this really weird thing happened. And it was like someone was asking me the question, why not? It's the same thing. Only if you ask why me, you are focused on your problem. But if you ask why not, you are actually focusing more on, this is how it is. How can I move forward from this? Because everyone gets their share of shit in their life. Everyone goes through adversity. But if you don't go through the adversity, how will you grow? How will you learn? How will you become a better version of you? I mean, and sometimes for me, I still have my issues and things that I need to deal with, because everyone thinks, oh, she's all happy now, blah, blah, blah. No one is ever happy 24/7. I mean, and that is not the way you want it either. You need to be sad sometimes, because if you don't know what dark is, how can you even know what light is? And I think that by knowing the real darkness, I can appreciate the lighter times or the happier times much more. And especially the last few months, I realized I'm already grateful for what hasn't happened yet, but I know it's coming. For example, this podcast, I wasn't even aware of it, but I probably intentionally, my intuition set an intention, and it just popped up. I'll be happy the rest of the weekend for just doing this podcast with you.
Ah, that's super so nice. Thank you, and I'm thrilled as well. And for our listeners who don't know, you're in Holland right now, so we're not
Yeah.
exactly next door neighbors, and it's incredible to have you here with us internationally. And the reality is stories of transformation and living intentionally and being empowered and healing, like these are not geo-specific kind of stories, and so like we want to have a broad reach because there's a world community. Really, it's not just about those that are in our backyard. So you mentioned a number of things which were brilliant, and I think one of the things that I want to drive home is when you say trust the process, there's a component of faith which has to occur when you're going to truly embrace the idea that the darkest parts of my life may actually be happening for me, that it was not actually happening to me. In the beginning of the process, for somebody who's in a position where there is in their mind an unfairness or an injustice, and how could it be different? There's a surrender to and a faith of I'm going to trust that it could maybe feel different than what I'm feeling right now. And if just being able to get to that place of acceptance and a willingness that there might be something different, then allows you to be able to deploy the I thought you phrased so brilliantly, the why not versus versus why me. I think that's absolutely an incredible insight. Thank you.
And I think the hardest part is probably the accepting process, because my best friend, she went on the same journey with me, because I met her through the personal development, and she had this keychain saying it is what it is. And I kept seeing that one, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to buy her a new one. She needs to throw that out, because I don't like the phrase it is what it is. But now I realized at some point, I thought, yeah, but it is true, because everything that you don't like, because most of the things we cannot accept is actually a situation that you want it to be different, but you cannot always change the situation. You can only change how you look at it. So if you are fighting it, you cannot connect with the situation. So it costs you so much energy and so much effort and sadness. But if you put that energy into, I say in every situation are three things: something to be grateful for, something to learn, and something to laugh about. If you put your energy and focus on those three things, you will much better be able to accept it and grow through it.
Beautiful. There's an old axiom that I love. It's just like what you resist will persist, right? So if I'm not accepting, I'm resisting. Therefore, I remain attached to it. You gave some nuggets that I want to parse for our listeners as well, which is you mentioned NLP or neuro linguistic programming, and it was a tool. The class, I think that it may be what you're talking about also when you say self development, because there's a component of that in there. It's an extraordinarily powerful set of tools that people can learn to really rewire their relationship to themselves, their world, their life, and empower themselves in a totally different way. Would you mind just giving a quick little overview of what is NLP and what are the benefits that people can glean from that kind of study if it's something they're interested in?
Well, NLP is mostly, I think, the rewrite. It's about limiting beliefs, how you can change your limited beliefs, become aware of them, because we are maybe not even aware of them. It has a part of timeline therapy in it. So, because most of the time when we have a limited belief, it doesn't come from a new situation. But let's say in your early years, especially when you're really young, as a young child, you get to learn, and you don't know anything because you learn from your family, from your area around you, from school. So that determines how your point of the world will be. And as you grow older, they will be stored. And then you experience a new experience, but it might look a little bit similar to something that you are already limited on. So the limited beliefs grows, and it will grow throughout life. Let's say, for example, I'm still dealing with this but I'm much aware of it now, on the I think what most people have is the feeling that they're not good enough. So we believe that we are not good enough. Wow. Why do we believe that? And who says that? You don't even know. You are just making it up in your head because of a situation, for example, that occurs. And let's say if you are very into in your intuition, it's very good. But most people are. We also have our ego, and our ego is only there to protect us and keep us safe. So our limited beliefs are stored there. And by working with NLP, you will learn to let go of your ego, become aware of it, change your habits, change your patterns. There's so many things in there that if you want to change, for me, it literally changed my whole life. When I started, I was a gray mouse sitting in the back of the room and not being visible. And then the trainer, who was only 26, he said, "What do you want? What are your dreams?" And my hand went up and I was going like, what is my hand doing there? So I quickly went down, but I was too late. And he made me stand up. And all I said at the time was, "I want to do a cabaret show." And I had no clue. I had no cabaret experience, nothing. And everyone was cheering because it was a big room. And I thought, yeah, well, let's see about that. And it took me 8 months to do the practitioner and the advanced. And I graduated. And the week after, I did my cabaret show in a sold out room with 300 people in the room. So yeah, that's how big the change is. And I'm actually now becoming more and more visible. So I'm also doing stand-up comedy right now. So I'm growing through it now. And NLP makes it easier because now I have the tools how to reframe and how to talk better language to yourself. So yeah, there's a lot in there.
It's so incredible. And thank you for articulating it so beautifully. I often tell people that one of the most liberating things in your entire life is the moment that you realize that you're really just essentially a bundle of pre-planned responses, that when somebody pushes a button, then this happens. And that initial awareness that, oh, there's something unconscious that's going on that's driving most of what goes on is it sounds like it would be depressing, and yet it's not, because all of a sudden everything in your life, why I feel the way I feel, why I think the way I think, all of these things start, like dominoes start falling. You're like, all of a sudden you make sense when you realize that. And thank you for articulating. We talk about on the program in my parlance or with the rapid enlightenment process, we'll call it the fundamental misperception, or, in different formats, it's that primary limiting belief or primary program. And it's either a version of worthy or enough. And you and I sounds like we share a similar one, which is something in the vein of not good enough is the expression for me. And that literally is the filter through which your entire life is viewed. And like having the ability to become aware of it is its own skill. Having the ability to then be able to intercede when it shows up is an entirely different set of skills. And when you do that, all of a sudden, then you're living in a world where where you get out of a shell and now you're in front of a cabaret, or now you're doing stand-up comedy or whatever else, because you have the tools to be able to intercede with that very fundamental way that every human relates to the world. And I think that's just so absolutely incredible. Thank you for sharing that. You talked about stand-up comedy, and that's where you're going right now. And laugh at shit is the business. Will you talk about like the power of laughter? What inspired you to start this company, and then really what are you doing with the company?
Well, actually, because COVID came, I was actually doing an admin job, and then COVID came, and it was all my contacts became online. So I was sitting here at home, and I got into contact with an English mentor, which I already knew him, and he started a Facebook group called Billion Lives Changed. So I joined the group, and every single day he did a live video, and it actually motivated me, and I connected with so many people in the UK. I thought, but I just like talking English. And I thought, well, this is really weird. I couldn't make, the US has always had a special place in my heart. And I thought it was because of my dad, but it's my favorite country to go to. So I thought, yeah, well, English, yeah, maybe English. And due to my connections, then that business mentor at some point came up. I said, why don't you do it in English? I said, but how am I going to make that work? And then I thought, yeah, well, why not? So I think it was the 5th of June in 2021. Yeah, it was my dad's birthday and he died the year before. So I launched Laugh at Shit. And I say, because laughter is the best therapy there is, and love is the best medicine. So if you combine laughter and love, you can, that is just the most powerful thing that there is. And I just wanted to find a way how I could make the mentoring and coaching and guiding people work with laughter. If I, for example, do a coaching session, I can be very direct. But I also, and I just don't know how I do it because it's in my nature probably. But someone comes up with a story and I just cannot stop to make a joke out of it. And it actually started because I did it all myself. And actually, I was going through a very hard time at some point. I called my best friend and I said, I don't want this life anymore. I don't like this. I don't want it anymore. And then she was silent. And then all of a sudden I go like, well, it's a good thing that I believe in multiple lives right now. She says, why? I said, well, if I would end it right now and I will go on the other side, they will make me go back right again. So I would have to go and start from the beginning. I'm already halfway. I might as well go on right now. And we both started to laugh. And all of a sudden, the dark wasn't so dark anymore because I came up with this stupid joke and I had to laugh because laughter makes you snap out of the situation. So, yeah, that's what works for me. And I think laughter, it is the best thing because it warms your heart as well. And we can all find something to laugh about, even in the not so easy situations. You just need to have a good look at it.
Awesome. So if you survey your life and you think about like where you are right now, where you've been, how is what you're doing now, what you're bringing into the world, the trajectory you're on, how is that? Is that either different from what you imagined your life to be, or on some level, are you actually doing a version of exactly what you thought you would be doing with your life?
No, it's totally different. I probably thought when I was a young kid, I thought I would be getting married at a very young age, have kids, blah, 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 have the, standard life or something, even though something didn't feel like I was supposed to live that life. And a few months ago, someone asked me, where are you proud of? And then I said, I am proud of everything that didn't work out because I never imagined. If I was suicidal 6 years ago and I was willing to take my own life, now I'm talking to you, having a great time. And I'm going I'm doing the stand-up comedy. I ended up with a little experience being on the quarterfinals of a cabaret festival last Saturday. And I'm going what is happening? I don't even know. And just like I said to you before we started this, I'm getting these opportunities and I don't have a clue what is going on. And I just say yes. I'm still scared, but I say yes and then figure it out and just go along with it because I'm trying to follow my intuition now. And I don't listen to that ego voice. I got good tools now for it. And it actually came back last week and it wasn't just one voice. No, he brought his own whole family-in-law with him. He has a new girlfriend. But just by making up that joke, the voice was different and I could make it stop.
He brought reinforcements. He wasn't getting what he wanted on his own.
I said to my friend, oh, guess what? Because I call him fuck up Fred. Sorry, it's not
nope, that's perfect.
No censoring, but I thought, let's call him fuck up Fred because he fucks things up. And then I said, well, I sent him on a holiday, but he came back. He's got a new girlfriend. That new girlfriend has 2 kids. And now he brought his family-in-law. So all the in-laws are with him and they are having a staff meeting in the middle of the night. So I cannot sleep. I need to shut them up. But just coming up with that story, it became a whole funny thing. And then I realized it's just my ego trying to protect me.
Yeah.
And just like you said before, it occurs on all levels of life. So last week I was in the quarterfinals, which was very good actually. But everyone said with so little experience, you came a long way very quickly. But I was in the quarterfinals and I wanted to go to the semifinals at least. So the not good enough, even though it wasn't true, but hey, it came up. It came up on the dating part because I had this, the most people have the biggest fear is to speak in public. That was my number one fear. But that moved to the number two because my number one fear is actually dating at the moment.
Oh.
Yeah. So because there you get the not good enough.
Oh, yeah.
But I do manage to have a part in my comedy set that talks about the dating stuff. So it gets also very funny. So it came up there. It came up with work. So suddenly it just like you said, it comes up on all different, and I just know this is something I need to address now. I need to change this. And because I'm aware of it, I know what is happening and I can change it easily, not easily, but better than before because I now know techniques that I didn't know before. But it's not like when you do an NLP course or you do a self-development thing that you're done and you're enlightened because, hey, right. I think that's not going to work. I mean, if that's going to work, I can skip any diet.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. It's never you're done and then that's the end of the story. It's you become a lifelong learner, in the process, and you go deeper into understanding of yourself, situations, others, and then it becomes like a life at play because you get to choose all kinds of different things that are interesting to you. I'm fascinated. A woman who is as trained as you are and who seems to bring into their life, manifest, if you will, so quickly. When you devote that attention into that not good enough on the relationship, I am excited to see what shows up in your life in the next 2 weeks, let alone 6 months.
Okay, you mentioned 2 weeks, right? And let me see. Oh my goodness. Because in 2 weeks, I'm going to meet someone that I think he might be the person I'm meant to be with. So, oh my goodness. So you are manifesting for me now.
You're welcome. So, talk to me about. You talk about intuition and following your intuition, and you're in kind of very much a stage where you're saying yes and you're seeing what happens. There's got to be a considerable amount of flexibility that you've been employing with yourself, and flexibility can drive that ego, absolutely crazy. Generally doesn't like to be super flexible. So talk to me about how you've had to be flexible to arrive at where you are right now.
Well, you always need to be flexible because most people live in their comfort zone. And the comfort zone is a really nice place, but nothing grows there. But it's what we know. And once I stepped a little step out of my comfort zone in the stretch zone started practicing with very small things during the year program. I don't remember what the smallest thing was, but I know we started in January, started our program, and they made us, without telling what to do, they made us take our bathing suits. And I'm going it's January. I need to go to the sea. I don't really get it. They made me sign a contract saying that I was going through that year, taking that program and doing whatever I needed, even if it was uncomfortable, to make myself a better person. I signed it. 5 minutes later, they said, we're going to take a New Year's dive. It was bloody January and freezing. And I was going okay, I thought I just signed. So if I cannot just break the contract 5 minutes after I signed. And it wasn't the cold, but it was, for me, it was very uncomfortable because it was with 600 people. And I had to take off my clothes with 600 people going seriously, no one was paying attention. But that was one of the first things that I did. And then it showed that it wasn't that bad. And I thought, I grew from this. And then the next month they had a new exercise and a new exercise. And once you get the hang of it and someone challenges you, the best thing is to challenge yourself, but I know that can be hard from the start. But if you take small steps, just try it with a single small thing. And once you get the hang of that, you will be able to do bigger things. I mean, I'm afraid of heights, but I went rappelling from a 108-meter high tower while being afraid because I just wanted to break the fear of the heights. Well, it didn't work. I'm still afraid.
But you did it.
But I did it. But the thing is, because I did it and I came downstairs, when I was down, I realized you can be afraid, but doesn't mean that you don't have to take another step. You can still do it while being afraid, because being afraid is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, when I was going on stage for stand-up comedy, in February, I was crying the whole day because I was so afraid to go on stage. Last week, they made me open the show, and I was going like, what? There are 100 people in the room. There's nothing harder than with 100 people in the room. I just had a surgery, so my narcosis wasn't really gone yet. That means my memory is not as well yet. So I thought, what if I don't know my lines? I had a joke about it that I had a note somewhere, but I couldn't use it because it was a festival, not an open mic. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. But because I just thought, you know what? I'll sort it out. I let go of that fear. I just walked on, saw all these people, and I thought, oh, shit. And I thought, well, let's see what I can do. And I let it go. And I thought, let's make people laugh and don't worry about anything else. I did forget my text, but I came up with something else. And before I knew it, the 10 minutes were over, and I'm going like, oh, I forgot. I wanted to make that joke or that joke. So if you practice, you will get better. You need to give it time, and you need to do whatever you want to do. But if you don't do what you really want, because most of the time, the flexibility, that is just telling us that we want to move forward. And if we stay in our comfort zone, then, yeah, I would say fear would most likely, well, it might last like 30 seconds, but regret will last the rest of your life. And you don't want to regret something. Most people are dying at the end of our life, and they are regretting for the things that they didn't do. I don't want to do that. I bent steel with my throat. I went walking over coals. I don't know. I thought, oh my God, that is hot. It was hot. But I mean, it's the mindset. It's how you train your mindset. And of course, I might have done extreme things, but you can also do simple things that might be as fun. Make a bucket list and things that you may not think about. But if you try and take a small step, but with something that you really like, then if you can handle that, you can also do a more difficult one. And if you cannot make it on your own, get someone that will hold your hand while you do it. That is probably the best advice.
So if you got somebody who's kind of like in that spot where, because everything you're describing also requires a considerable amount of like courage and faith, to be able to, you put yourself in that position. So it's like flexibility. What I'm hearing is you're being flexible, and then boom, you're employing like courage and faith to kind of, to stay in motion and to know it's going to work out. What tip would you give to somebody who is in need of that kind of courage and faith? Like what's a way to intercede or a way to kind of like hack that could get somebody to be able to take a risk potentially?
I think you could start with noticing or listening to your self-talk. What story are you telling yourself? If you are telling yourself you cannot do it, well, then you're right. I mean, whether you say you can or you can't, you are always right, because it's the story that you tell yourself. And if you tell yourself, who says it's impossible? No one is impossible. Everything is possible. I mean, there are people that go to the hospital and they've been told that they will never walk again, but they don't believe it and they keep going, and they end up walking again. So why not believe? It's your choice, whatever you want to believe. And it's probably also a process to get more courage, because I didn't start with I just woke up one day and thought, oh, I'm going to be brave and I have faith that everything will work out just fine. No, that is a process. It took me years. But by trying new things, changing my self-language. And I hated the word, but self-love is really the most important thing. And solving old issues like inner child things and stuff like that, which I at the time thought, well, that sounds really, really spiritual. Let's stay on the ground with both feet. But it is true because I now see how things are coming together. If you are willing to look at yourself, what part are you playing in the situation? I mean, for example, in the relationship with my ex-partner, I played a role too, because a relationship is a two-way street. And it's not saying that whatever he did was okay and I deserved it. No, I didn't. And it was not okay. But I let him go over my boundaries over and over and over again. I let him do that. So people can only hurt you with your consent. So if you don't want that, choose something different. But that is a real process. So you cannot do it in once. And what I found is I needed some help from people that knew how it worked or that had a program or training. I took a lot of different trainings, got myself a mentor. So they could, a teacher can tell you where to look, but a good teacher doesn't tell you what to find because they will let you find the answer yourself.
So
because the answer is different for everyone.
Absolutely. So you haven't been a lone wolf in your development. You've employed communities and mentors and teachers and support groups. Do you find that in your work with people, that's essential to the process itself, or does it simply make the process faster? A lot of us like to be lone wolves. What's the risk in that as far as it relates to your self-discovery and movement?
Well, I think I've been a lone wolf until I started the self-development. And I think it's essential for me, at least for me. I mean, it could be different for someone else, but if you go alone, you might go fast. But if you go together, you will come further, because if you surround yourself, that is actually a pretty big thing that I came across. If you surround yourself with like-minded people that like the same things, believe the same things, that will uplift you when you're down, then you will be able to get more courage, more faith, more self-love. And you will be able to do, and most of the time, the like-minded people are not your family members. Sorry to say so, but most of the time you need to go out and find them in a group or in a, I don't know what, if you like tennis, maybe at the tennis club or at the soccer club, whatever it is the knitting club. I mean, I don't know, you can go anywhere, but find the people that have the same interest, that have the same beliefs and the same. And I read this quote once, and that was really helpful. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. So if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm going like, which is not, well, it's not really like happening a lot, I think. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm so smart, but if I am the smartest person in the room, I think maybe tomorrow I need to go somewhere else, for example, because I like to learn. And if you are open-minded, you most likely, I mean, I couldn't have done it with the people that I surrounded, let's say. And most of my friends, a lot of my friends are not even close by. They are either in the UK or in the US. But when I need them, I mean, the world is opening up more. I mean, we can, with social media, I can connect and call them anytime. So they are the ones pushing me forward or holding me accountable or saying, okay, in this situation, maybe you want to handle it this way. But they talk from a place from love. And let's say, for example, if you say like family, for example, my dad, it wasn't that my dad didn't believe in me. He did, but he wanted to keep me safe. And because I was his, well, I'm not that little, but I was his little girl, and he wanted to keep me safe. So he thought, oh, don't make that joke. You cannot say that, or you cannot do this. Well, he's not there anymore. And I do make those jokes, and it makes me grow. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's a whole new level, whole new world opening up, because I can say this or I can do that. So get yourself surrounded with people, and they don't have to be family, because in my case, I don't think my family really understands what I'm doing, because hey, told my mom I was doing a podcast. She is 70. She knows what a podcast is now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's very young and in her mind. But what I'm exactly doing, she's got no clue. She knows I'm making jokes and I'm doing comedy, but the whole coaching part, she doesn't have a clue how it exactly works. And I just figured, you know what, maybe I shouldn't even try to understand, because it doesn't help. So get yourself the right people around you is always a good thing. I think you need them. And as far as if you want to develop more or you want to grow more, yeah, in my case, best investment ever is the investment in yourself. So whether that is if you take an online training or a course or do a Zoom meeting with someone or take a mentorship or whatever you do, but just make sure that you feel that it's the right thing to do. But you will always get better from it.
Awesome. If let's say there's somebody listening right now that's in that space, that dark night of the soul kind of space, or maybe it's not so desperate. Maybe it's not the rock bottom yet. There's something in them that they know that they're not accessing, that they know there's something else that they could be doing with themselves. And they have that kind of that longing internally to take a risk or really be more of who or what they really are. And they're afraid to let go of the status quo, which maybe isn't so bad for them. What would you tell that person?
Ask yourself a few different questions. I would say, why is it important to you? Why do you really want that? Whatever it is that you want. And what would happen if you don't do it now? If you don't do it now, when will you do it then? If it's that important for you, because it's actually a sequence in asking those questions. And most likely, if that happens with me in a coaching conversation, I wait for the answer and then go on a deeper level. So I keep on asking deeper until we find out what the core thing is. But ask yourself the right questions. Why is it important? Why do you really want it? What would happen if you didn't pursue your dream? What would happen if you did? What is holding you back? Why? What is the best thing that could happen? Because we always wonder what's the worst thing that could happen. It's a it's a mindset thing. Ask yourself, what is the best thing that could happen? And if you find it difficult, reach out to someone that is like-minded, or to someone. Well, sometimes it's even better to ask someone that you don't know, because when I was able at first, because I'm very open right now, but I wasn't 6 years ago, because I was like a closed book. Even though everyone thought I was open, hey, I was very selective in what I shared or not. So when I talked to a stranger, it was easier for me to share because they didn't know anything about me. So sometimes that's even better.
Awesome. Sandra, thank you so very much for spending time with us here today. How can any of our listeners reach you?
They can find me on my social media, Facebook and Instagram, Sandra Ammerlaan, or they can go to my website, laughatshit.com. There is a free visualization on my website that they can download, and it's about self-love. So if anyone wants a little bit more self-love, try my visualization. It's free, download it, and or send me an email.
Perfect. And just to make sure we get this right, is it laugh AT shit?
Yes.
Or is it laugh the @ sign shit?
No, it's AT, because I couldn't get the @ sign as a website, they told me.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and I look forward to continuing the conversation in the future.
Yeah, me too. And thank you so much for having me. And it was really great to be here.
All right, this has been another episode of the Intentional Soul Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to leave a 5-star review if you found this content of value. And as always, I'm your host, Tom Ross, master practitioner of the Advanced Rapid Enlightenment Process and Rapid Enlightenment Process developed by Matthew Ferry. You can reach me at tom@tomrosstalks.com, and the website to engage and be a part of any classes, trainings, or sessions I have going on is www.tomrosstalks.com. Until next time, peace.